With the temperatures dropping, the state is in a mad dash to get homeless families into shelters.
We told you about a plan from the state to set up shelters in Montpelier, Waterbury, and Williston, and they're also looking to have one in Rutland. Channel 3's Calvin Cutler is live in Waterbury in front of one of the shelters the state hopes to open. Calvin, what's the timeline here?
Yeah, Kiana and Darren, good evening. The state of Vermont owns the Armory here in Waterbury, which was recently used as a FEMA recovery center, but the state is hoping to use as a shelter for families with kids within the next 2 weeks. All of this, of course, following the unwinding of the state's hotel-motel program. It's been about a month since new rules, which the governor and Democratic lawmakers agreed to, went into effect, placing caps on how many hotel rooms the state will pay for. Some families lost their housing due to the rule change. And as snow starts to turn the Green Mountains white, the Agency of Human Services announced they're standing up 3 shelters to serve families with kids.
Kids come first. They're the most vulnerable. They're caught in the middle of this situation. And I want to do everything we can to help them.
Unlike the sparsely attended congregate shelters set up in March, Governor Scott says families will have private space in conference rooms and shared kitchens. The state wants to have the shelters up and running by November 1st, but they're struggling to find providers in Williston, Montpelier, and Rutland.
So we, the providers, are on the front lines working frantically to keep people from dying.
At a press conference this week, advocates and service providers decried Vermonters with acute medical and mental health conditions losing their hotel rooms. Providers from across the state say they're stretched thin and are unable to take on new cases. They also say people with disabilities and severe medical conditions are left sleeping in tents.
We have medically vulnerable people with chronic diseases who've been sleeping outside for many nights now and are still waiting for a shelter bed to open up.
There's also challenges in getting the shelters off the ground. A plan to turn the local armory in Waterbury to a shelter has hit a snag. A request to change local zoning is tied up in the courts. And the town manager tells us he just heard about the new shelter plan through the press this week. But still, there's a disagreement about the scope of the problem. Advocates say they're overwhelmed with the hundreds who have lost hotels and are asking for help. But DCF says they're in contact with families, including 21 kids, and add when people leave hotels, keeping in touch can be a problem.
They may be with family members. We don't believe they are out on the street, but we'll find out.
Expanded hotel eligibility under so-called cold weather rules will kick in on December 1st. Now, the challenges that the state is having in staffing some of these shelters has some advocates calling for the state to fully reinstate the hotel-motel program so people can stay sheltered. Now, about staffing these family shelters as well, Governor Phil Scott says that utilizing state employees like we did during the pandemic isn't off the table, meaning that this shelter here in Waterbury, which is gummed up in the courts, could then proceed. For now, reporting live in Waterbury, Calvin Cutler, Channel 3 News.